Right, hello, and welcome back to BallinCraig Farm in Ireland. I thought in my last video I showed you, my last video was on Aghalee Farm, also in Ireland, and I showed you how I had some of my bales stacked with an electric fence erected around them, stop the cows that were in the field from getting at the bales and showing through the plastic. And I realised that this farm has different ways of, or a couple of different ways of storing bales, and one of them, as far as I'm aware, is a uniquely Kiwi way of doing it. So let me finish this row and we'll go for a bit of a wander, and I'll show you the three different ways that I store bales on this farm. So just finish this row. Okay, one of them you can actually see directly ahead of me now, but we'll just stop the tractor down here and I will discuss the three ways I store bales on this farm. So, okay, so we'll kill the motor here. Hop out. This is the Fiat Aghalee 11090. Absolutely love that tractor. But I think I even love that tractor a bit more than its bigger brother, the 18090. So here you can see I've got fully fermented bales here that are outside, and the reason they're outside is because I don't have any spare shed space to put them in a shed on this farm. So they're just on the edge of a paddock, no electric fence around them because there are no cows in this paddock. If I wanted to put stock in this paddock I'd have to put an electric fence around them, but I don't want to do that, so that's not a problem. Now if we wander down here a wee bit, now I must say, when I said I've got no spare shed space for those bales, I've got grass and straw bales, or hay and straw bales, sorry, in this shed here. But I must admit, one thing I have done is I've actually, with three sheds, this one and this one and this one, I could have used those as sheds to actually store things in. I've put cows in them instead, so there's little areas for cows that need to be separated from the main herd for some reason. Perhaps they're pregnant and they're about to give birth, and it's a lot easier to have them separated to be there for them when that happens, or perhaps they're a bit sick or something, so they're separated. And anyway, so this farm had too much shed space, so I turned those ones into areas for cows, and I actually really like those cow areas there, so I might do that to some other maps in the future, especially since I believe Saxlington Farm is coming out tomorrow, or it might be the day after, because it says it's coming out 1st of August. Well, 1st of August. Well, for me, 1st of August is tomorrow, but for the States, 1st of August is still 2 days away, and quite often when they say something's being released on such and such a date, they're talking about the US date, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's 2 days away for me. Again, that's an FS25 map, and I don't want to make any promises until I've tried it, but it's a possibility that I might start an FS25 map. If I do it, it'll be as well as these FS22 maps, not instead of. But yeah, it's a possibility that I might start playing FS25 if that map turns out to be one that I really like. So, but I'm holding my opinion for now. I've seen a number of videos on it. Some of them look really good, some of them I've seen things I don't like quite so much. Basically for me, I prefer to just try the map out for myself and then make a decision. So okay, so this paddock here, which is another one that gets mown, so it doesn't have any stock in it, it just gets used for mowing purposes. It has a barn up in the corner of the field. Now the reason for this one, again, this one doesn't have any electric fencing around it because there's no animals in this field. It's also an open barn, so there's no sides in order to get the wind through to dry out bales and things, because my understanding is any shed that's got bales stored in it is a potential fire hazard as heat builds up and things, so best to have it well ventilated. I've also got an old truck in this shed, in this barn, but this barn's just stuck up in the corner of a paddock, and sometimes you see that in New Zealand where you just get a small shed or a small barn just in the corner of a paddock, miles away from any yard or anything. It just means that, like, if I'm mowing this paddock and say the paddock next to it or something, I don't have to carry all those bales half the length of the farm in order to store them, because I've just got a little storage area out, just out there. And then, so that's the two that this farm's had for a long time. That shed there, I've had that on the map for a very long time. The next one I'm going to show you is a new one. I only just put it into the map a couple of days ago, and I haven't done any videos on this map since I put it in, so I know it'll be new to all of you. And it's the one that has a little feature that, as far as I'm aware, is unique to New Zealand, but don't quote me on that. In fact, I'd love to hear from some of my American viewers, or if I've got any English viewers. As far as I know, I only have New Zealand and American viewers, I think. But if I have got viewers from any other countries watching this, I'd love to know whether this is just New Zealand only thing or not that I'm about to show you. So we'll just head up here, up to the very last paddock on my farm, in fact. So bear with me a moment till we get there. There we go. So it's this gate here that I need. So my steering wheel must be not quite straight then when I hopped off the trike. This farm seems to have a some gates you have to stand by where the end of the gate is when it's open. When you press the mouse button to close the gate. Other gates you need to stand where the end of the gate would be once it's closed in order to close it. So here I have another barn that's been constructed. Now this barn here, I can't actually walk into it because it's one of those ones that auto stacks the bales. I'll show you what you mean in a second. In real life it would have a number of vents up there in the wall a bit higher up and things, so you get a lot of through flowing air. You can see there though that the walls along the sides don't quite reach the top. Well, in New Zealand the walls probably would reach the top, but you'd have a lot of vents in the wall there. But I suppose having the walls not quite reach the top achieves the same purpose of having it so you can get ventilation through the barn in order to keep the bales cool from the wind, so you don't have any fires break out. Now, what makes this quite unique to New Zealand is because the barn's open at the front. Again, this is in order to keep lots of wind coming through the bales. So because there are cows in this paddock, instead of putting an electric fence around the bales, I've actually got a proper shed here, but there's this little fence area built around the front of the barn, just so that even if the bales are stacked right up to the front of the barn there, the cows can't reach them because they can't get into this little area. This have some gates here you can open, and then you can come into this area here, and there are no doors in the shed because you want to keep that ventilation coming through. And what I meant about auto stacking, so as you see, if I walk up very into the shed, you can see those red crosses, which is areas I can't walk into, so I can't actually walk into that shed. But if I went in here for a second, and I'll show you what I mean. If I turn on the interactive zone markers, I think it is. So here you can see if I dump the bales here, they'll automatically stack into the shed. And what's this one here for? Yeah, so the things, I can't remember what that, I think that's just an indicator that it's an auto shed, but you can see the yellow and black bits on the ground there. So any pallets or bales I dump in this yellow and black area get automatically stacked into the shed. So sometimes it can be handy to have an auto loading shed like that. I just turned it off so it looks more natural. Sometimes it can be quite handy to have an auto loading shed like that so it stacks and you don't have to worry, because as I've mentioned before, I don't normally stack bales more than 2 high when I'm doing them manually, so that they won't all explode on me, or not very often. But in a shed this size, it means I can stack them as high as I want because it's auto loading. So it's also less I suppose less thirsty, you will call it, on the computer power, because once the bales are stacked in there, it's not, the computer's not actually counting them as individual bales, it's just remembering how many bales are in the shed, and it will spit them out as you sort of, whatever number you want spat out, it'll spit out at you, sort of thing, but it's not actually remembering each bale. So, for example, if you've got a lower end computer, which I don't have, but if you do have a lower end computer, you might have a limits like, sometimes if once you get up to like about 200 bales, it'll start slowing the whole system down and maybe crashing it. So having a auto load shed like that, as well as allowing you to stack more bales, it means you can surpass that bale limit of 200 or something, because it's not having to remember it all as individual bales, it's just remembering it as how many bales are in that shed. But as long as they're in the shed, they're not actually sort of remembered as individual bales. So yeah, the bit of that shed that, as far as I'm aware, is uniquely Kiwi is the way that it's got the little fence around the front of the shed, stopping your cows from getting into it, and it means you can still stack things right up to the very front of the shed, and the cows can't reach it because of that fence. So yeah, I would be interested to hear from any of you that are from outside of New Zealand, whether you've seen like open-ended barns like that with a little fenced-off area around them before, or whether that is, as I suspect it is, uniquely New Zealand. Well, that's about covered what I really wanted to cover today, so maybe the video's not all that long yet. We might just do maybe try and finish mowing this field up. I've got a number of fields to mow at the moment, and I think one more month, because I'm doing 1 day months here, it's one more day, which is also one more month, and those bales that are up in that far corner of my farm where the old rusted out truck is, I think those ones will have finished fermenting in one more month. And these ones that these fields I'm just mowing now, it's only 9:30 in the morning, so I should have time to get those all baled up and maybe put in that new shed that I've just finished building and haven't got any bales in yet, so that they can start the fermenting process in there. My understanding from those auto sheds, and certainly in earlier versions of the game, it's true, and I imagine it is in this one as well, is that when you put bales that are in the process of fermenting into one of those sheds, that they carry on in the process of fermenting. So what happens is, I can't remember whether it's, I think it's 3 months that bales take to turn from wrapped grass into silage. I think it's 3 months. But anyway, so what it means is, if I went and put, once I've finished mowing these fields and baling them up, if I went and put the bales in that shed straight away, if I pulled the bales out of the shed after 1 month, they'd be approximately, give or take, 33% fermented still. If I pulled them out of that shed after 2 months, they'd be, give or take, 66% fermented. And if I pulled them out after 3 months, even though they were grass bales when I put them into the shed, they would then be silage bales when I pulled them out. So it is one of the things I do like about those auto stacking sheds, is that the bales continue to ferment at the same rate as if they weren't in the shed at all. So you're not kind of cheating by having bales automatically turn into silage immediately just because you put them into the shed, but at the same token, you're not having the fermenting process stop for the length of time you've got them in the shed there for. So yeah, I think, because from memory, I think the bales that I've got fermenting in that far shed with the rusty truck in it at the moment is about half of what I got for mowing the 4 grass paddocks I have on this farm that I mow regularly. So I should have twice that many bales to go into that new shed by the time I've finished mowing all my fields and baling them up. Yeah, and that'll be the first time that shed gets used since I've built it. As I said, I built that shed about 3 days ago in game, which was 3 months ago, of course, but I haven't used it yet, and I did actually pay for the shed using copper in-game money. I had to pull out more of my overdraft again, so I didn't cheat money in to build that or anything like that. That's probably one of the reasons, in fact, that it takes me so long to pay off my overdraft, because not only am I not doing forestry and things like that that actually help you earn big money fairly quickly. I'm basically making money from selling calves, selling milk, and selling any excess silage bales I have. And not on this farm, so on this farm I own the whole map, but on some of my other farms, I might do a bit of contract work occasionally to make some money, especially need some urgently for something. But with this one I own the whole map, so I have no option of doing any contracts. There simply aren't any when you own the fields already. So basically, this one I do have a couple of fields I can do crops in, but because I don't have any crop storage areas, if I do grow crops, basically I only grow it when I need the straw bales, and that's why I'm growing it, because I'm selling the crop straight away as soon as it comes off the field, and you never get a lot of money when you're selling it like that. If you want to make money from crops, what you really need to do is add some crop storage silos, so when you harvest the field you can put it in silos and leave it there until, like often in the winter months, the price the shops will pay you for the crop increases dramatically, which I suppose is how it would work in real life as well, because people, a lot of people wouldn't really have that crop available to sell, and so supply and demand would suggest that it'd be worth more at that time. So the game seems to have that fairly realistically. But because on this farm I don't have any crop storage areas, I have to sell the crop straight off the field as I'm harvesting it, straight from the harvester into a truck and straight to the grain store to be sold, so I can't store it anywhere. So I don't make much money from that. Mostly I just make money here from selling excess silage bales when I have excess ones, and selling my milk. So it does take me a lot of time to make money, and then I go and end up modifying my farm and improving it, and sometimes finding something I want to try, like a new mower or something like that. So before I even get the overdraft paid off, I'm drawing down on more of it, which doesn't help the finances. But as I've always said, I play this game for the enjoyment of farming. You should never ever take what I do on the farming game as being good financial advice, because the stuff I'm doing in my farming game would be terrible, terrible financial advice. If I was to give financial advice, it would be stay out of debt, and get into debt to get a mortgage by all means, because that's pretty much the only way you'll be able to ever buy a home, is to get a mortgage from the bank. But housing generally goes up in value over time, so it becomes worth more than what you paid for it. So therefore, it's as much as possible, it would be what I would classify as a good debt, because you're getting into debt to buy an asset that's increasing in value. But any time you get into debt to buy something that's going to decrease in value, like getting into debt to buy a car, getting into debt to buy a new stereo system, or some other item that you want to own, to buy a television set, things like that, it's never ever good debt, because the asset's going to decrease in value so quickly. So my real life financial advice, for what it's worth, is stay out of debt as much as you possibly can, unless it's getting into debt to purchase something that's going to increase in value, such as a house. But when it comes to farming simulator, I'm forever in debt, and often it's not good debt, as it were. Even that shed, I had plenty of places, like in paddocks and things, that I could store wrapped bales out in the open, so I didn't need that shed. I wanted that shed, so in real life that would not be a good thing to get into debt for. But I did pull out my overdraft. What is my overdraft at? Let's go and have a look. I can't even read that figure there. I'm too far away from my screen. What did they there? Oh, 140,000. Yeah, I think from memory it cost me about 70,000 for both the shed and the landscaping that was needed around it, and the fencing and gate around the front. So I think I was at about 70,000 debt, and now I'm back up to 140,000 again. But I shall let you go now. Thank you very much for joining me to discuss that shed. And yeah, as I said, if any of you are from outside New Zealand, I'd be interested to hear whether that's a uniquely New Zealand way of doing an open-ended shed in a paddock that has animals in it or not. Thanks. Bye.